Hi, everybody. Be the cure. How do you start? I mean, how can you as an individual deliver any contribution? I mean, be that in the large sense of wanting to better the world around you, or in everyday situations of problem solving. I mean, familiar terms like out-of-the-box thinking and flip thinking are often used in context of innovation, and they describe interesting ways to gain new perspectives on a situation. But in my opinion, ideally, this mentality would be inherent. Sometimes self-enrichment, studying, and research isn't sufficient. I mean, yeah, we need to train ourselves to break free from conventions, because conventions are there to solve known problems within the field of work. But what if a new unknown problem presents itself? How can you train yourself and your brain to break free from these conventions when you need to? All good questions, and I don't have an all-covering answer for that. What I do have is my answer. What I think you can do to train your analytical thinking and problem-solving capabilities for the uncertainty of the future. Which, in my opinion, is the following. If the clicker works, there we go. Experiment by using your knowledge and skills for something unusual. Seek the absurd and senseless every now and again to find out where you can make a difference. I think this holds true in all aspects of society, so therefore also in the creative field. Because when you follow conventions and guidelines, or you base your work on very direct influences and inspirations, you'll find it difficult to come up with original ideas or solutions. So, do these experiments that I propose need to serve any practical purpose or solve a problem? Well, no, because who can say with certainty which problems we'll face in the future? Therefore, I think it's important to keep feeding your creativity, especially in the exact and structured field where I, as a programmer and IT person, find myself. When you commit yourself to a metaphorical train track of conventions, what do you do when you realize that you're heading straight for a brick wall without means of slowing down? Especially because the present is chaos and the future is even more intangible, I challenge myself to keep testing my flexibility, especially when it's not needed yet. So that's the why. And to summarize, bask in the chaos of life. My name is Willem Kolkman. I'm a 24-year-old programmer and musician from Zieuwent, which is a tiny town in the Netherlands. You probably have never heard of it. And I'm here today to show off one of these experiments that I made. And it's called LangoRhythm. It's a blend word between language, algorithm, and rhythm, and this is what it does. It converts text into music. It breaks apart a piece of text sentence by sentence, letter by letter, and then it applies some logic and some rules to it to produce a melody. I mean, it seems simple enough, but it's a really strange concept to grasp. So what I'll do is I'll explain some of the rules with a couple of examples. Imagine the alphabet as a range of values. Each letter from A to Z has its own unique position in this range. Now imagine that we overlay this range onto a scale of a piano. We can now analyze and break apart a word letter by letter, and then we can determine a corresponding note on a piano. So, in the example of the word TEDx, the highlighted notes would be the result. Now, this is the simplest rule in the system, and the best way to demonstrate that to you is by just playing the following text, which sounds like this, if it works. So what you hear there is literally the alphabet being converted into music. Now, if you listen to that, there are a few things to take away. The melody goes from low to high as the text goes from A to Z. The melody is being played quite fast. Some notes are longer than others, and you hear a chord at the beginning. Now, the melody from low to high was expected, like I explained with the scale, but what about these other things? Well, they are the result of the rest of the rules in the system. I will explain a couple of them. In the essence of saving time, I'll make it quick. There we go. Well, the duration of a note is influenced by the presence of a vowel. In the example of the word Maastricht, I've highlighted which note would be twice as long, and the rule goes like this. The first time a vowel occurs, it makes itself twice as long. The second time a vowel occurs, it makes the note after it twice as long. So in the example of the word Maastricht, the first A makes itself twice as long, so that note would be twice as long in the melody. The second A influenced the note after that, making the S twice as long. And the I, as it's the first time the I occurred, makes itself twice as long. So that's how we introduce rhythm. Chords are calculated per sentence, based on the amount of letters in a sentence. Basically, what my program does is it plays eeny, meeny, miny, mo on the list of available chords in the calculated key. And then the speed, the BPM, which stands for beats per minute, is mapped to the average word length, which means that the longer the average word is, the faster the melody will be. Okay, with all that in mind, let's listen to the following text. There we go. Right, now that is the same melody being played slower, and you can hear a second chord for the second sentence. So, as I explained, the average word length influences the speed. So as we introduced spaces into the alphabet, the average length of a word became lower, making the melody slower. Well, this is still only part of the logic in the system, though. Some of the other parameters that are being calculated are the scale of the melody, being either major, minor, or pentatonic. There's pauses in the melody for every time a space occurs, and I've introduced timing corrections, so a new chord always starts on the whole count. Well, so that's been my life for 2.5 months. Well, this is all. Thank you very much. Look, Mom, it's useful. Well, debatable, but anyway. This all gets really complicated pretty quickly, and I realized that. So the best way to pull you guys back is probably just by the way I pulled myself back, by explaining the outcome, or by observing the outcome, rather. Because as I was building this program, I got to a point where I was unable to even predict the outcome anymore. Like, I was just adding logic, rule by rule, but I was unable to still see the bigger picture. And it became so, like, this is where this became an obsession, and it became interesting for me, because I almost felt like I was, like, transcending my own mental ability by, like, adding rule one by one, but I had no idea what the outcome would be. It's just like I was building my own black box. Like, it gets bigger, it gets bigger, whatever I chuck in it. I have no idea what comes at the other end. So, yeah, sleepless nights. But yeah, let's observe the outcome. You've all gotten a program booklet, which has a quote by every speaker that'll be at TEDx today. And what I've done is I've took quotes from the 4 speakers of the first session, so basically everybody that we've had the pleasure of listening to already. And I'm just going to run those through my system. So don't worry if you got lost during my explanation. Observe the result. There we go. You really are way too kind. Yeah, I do realize and acknowledge, though, that this is a melody that is a little bit unorthodox and scattered somewhat, but that was the essence of the entire experiment, and that's what made it so intriguing to me. So if you're also interested by this and you want to know more about the technical side of things, feel free to approach me after the presentation if you happen to find me wandering around. But also, if you're a programmer like me, the code for this project is also available on GitHub. If you're a programmer, you'll know what it is. You can just Google LangoRhythm or stalk me on Twitter, and I'll give it to you. Before I leave, though, I want to perform a final piece of music that is generated with the help of LangoRhythm. It's a text from the TEDx website and an excerpt from the introduction of Theodore Gray, to be more precise. All melodic elements that you'll hear are solely based on the result from the text that I'm inputting into LangoRhythm. I will be using my Launchpad to add some drums and effects to complete the arrangement, so I'll be using these pretty lights to make it more interesting. I chose this text from Theodore Gray because he talks about natural curiosity in children in this text, and it really resonated with me because I feel it's essential to maintain your natural curiosity. Like, the countless hours I've spent building LangoRhythm all led up to this moment, like me being here on this stage. And I mean, like I said in my introduction, even though these types of weird, unusual experiments seem like they serve no purpose at all, whatever you make or whatever you learn might end up being totally useful. And even if it doesn't, it's the process that will form you as a person. So, without further ado, I present to you Theodore Gray in A minor. As I've played numerous cover bands and play piano, I feel so privileged and proud to once again perform something that I didn't write myself. Okay, let me get this on. Thank you very much for your attention. Enjoy the rest of the conference.